DocTalk is brought to you by Merck Animal Health, the science of healthier animals.
Hey folks, thanks for joining us today on DocTalk. I'm Dr. Dan Thomson. We're going to have a great guest. He's the Extension Swine Veterinarian for Iowa State's College of Veterinary Medicine. His name is Dr. Chris Rademacher. He's an expert in swine medicine, and he's going to talk about African swine fever. It's really been a global crisis when it comes to pork supply chain and what we're seeing in China and Europe and different countries. And we're going to talk about the impact it has on pork and beef production.
As dependable as the sunrise, in dairy parlors, open pastures, on ranches and feed yards across America. A place where reputation is more than a name, where the science of healthier animals is a way of life. It's the responsibility that drives who we are and what we do. Every decision, every day. It's your livelihood and our responsibility.
Closed captioning brought to you by VetGun with Amel and new AMA Abamectin Vet Caps, the 1-2 punch against hornfly resistance from AgriLabs.
This segment is brought to you by the Beef Quality Assurance Program and the Kansas Beef Council, improving animal care and beef safety for more than 20 years.
Hey folks, welcome to DocTalk. I'm here with Dr. Chris Rademacher. We're here at Iowa State University's College of Veterinary Medicine, where Dr. Rademacher serves as a clinical professor of swine medicine and is also the state swine extension specialist for veterinary medicine and the state swine veterinarian, right?
That's correct.
And so he comes to us at Iowa State with years of experience within swine integrators and being a practicing veterinarian. And Minnesota, Iowa, where was the geography of your practice?
Yeah, mostly in southern Minnesota, northwestern Iowa for both cases. When I went to work for Murphy Brown, which is part of Smithfield Foods, then we kind of had everything that was west of the Appalachian Mountains. So.
Oh man, it's a lot of pigs. And so if it's happened with a pig, he's seen it, and to get him to take time out of his schedule, we just really appreciate your ability to be here on the show.
No, my pleasure.
So, folks, we've all heard about African swine fever, and whether it's beef or pork meat, it's impacting trade globally on meat, and so tell us a little bit about the history of African swine fever, please.
Yeah, so it's African swine fever, right? So it was first found in Africa, warthogs, things like that. Where it really got to be some notoriety is in about 2007, it made the jump from Africa into the eastern part of Europe and infected Russia, and now is slowly moving westward across the continent. Where it really got to be the clear and present danger, I think, for U.S. producers is it jumped over into China about August of 2018, and really, literally in a period of 6 to 9 months, raced across that country, right? So the concern for U.S. pork producers is we have a lot of visitors, we import a lot of products, feed ingredients from China. We know through previous infections with a disease called porcine epidemic diarrhea virus that is certainly a way that we could have a disease-causing pathogen like that could cross the Pacific and infect pigs here in the States.
And it's pretty hardy, hard to kill. And it can live in food products?
Yeah, that's a danger. You know, there's multiple things about African swine fever. First of all, it's no danger to humans at all. If you were to eat it, there's no concerns. So it's not a food safety disease per se.
Right.
But it's damaging in that it causes, high mortality, can cause lots of sick pigs. There's absolutely no effective treatment or vaccine for it at all. And yeah, as you said, it's really resistant in the environment. It can live in the environment for long periods of time. It can live in undercooked pork products, so like things that we would typically think about smoking, sausages as being one of the primary ones. So the concern is that that virus stays alive in those type of products. People travel internationally. A lot of times, certainly from some other cultures, that's part of their cultural thing is they bring gifts. A lot of times they bring these meat products as gifts. So they'll bring them even though they're told not to, and they're supposed to declare them at Customs and Border Patrol as they come into the country. So spend a lot of time trying to get the dogs out there to sniff them to keep that virus from getting into the country.
And I've seen that where they have the dogs that sniff and they laid out all the sausage or things like that. And
yep.
And you call it what? The Beagle?
Beagle Brigade, yeah, that's right.
and you were mentioning when we were on break that even last week there was a smoked pig's head?
Yeah, they found it come from Ecuador. That was actually probably a few months ago that the beagle was able to sniff out of somebody's luggage. They had actually confiscated some pork sausages, I think, in the country of Northern Ireland from some tourists, and then they went ahead and tested those, and sure enough, those sausages were positive for African swine fever.
Great. Well, let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk with Dr. Rademacher more about African swine fever and about how it affects pigs in the industry. You're watching DocTalk. We're glad you joined us. Hey folks, welcome to our Cattle First Minute, sponsored by Boehringer Ingelheim Vet Medica. And today we're going to talk about clostridial vaccines. And one of the things about clostridial vaccines is many times it's called, in layman's term, blackleg or something of that nature. But when you hear someone say, I'm going to give a 7-way blackleg, that is the vaccination for clostridials. Now, all of us that are watching this show are also vaccinated for a clostridial that's very common in our environment, called Clostridial tetani, and that is tetanus. So tetanus is a clostridial vaccine that humans and cattle alike receive. Make sure that we vaccinate our calves that are going to be housed on pastures that are high with the blackleg disease with a 7-way clostridial bactrin. We also want to make sure that we utilize that bactrin when they're going into a grow yard and again at the weaning process. When we want to use clostridial tetani or tetanus vaccines is if you're going to use the technique of banding to castrate bull calves. Always use the tetanus toxoid. Clostridial vaccines have been around forever. They're one of the most effective vaccines that we have in the world, and they work really well.
It must be an inherited trait because I have never wanted to do anything other than be in the cattle business. And it's interesting as I have grandchildren now, little bitty ones. All they want to do is go to the barn, swing a rope, and be a cowboy. It's something. It's a lifestyle that we have, the way we make a living, obviously. But it's really more than that. It gives us the opportunity as a family to be able to work together and enjoy each other's company and make a living at the same time. We've been using Triangle for years, and the reason we do it's been safe and effective, and we're going to continue to do that. We'll put the cows in the chute twice a year, spring and fall. 100% of our cattle get vaccinated with Triangle.
This segment is brought to you by the Beef Quality Assurance Program and the Kansas Beef Council, improving animal care and beef safety for more than 20 years.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thomson here with Dr. Chris Rademacher, who is a swine veterinarian and has been in practice for many years. He's here at Iowa State, serving the state of Iowa and beyond as an extension veterinarian and a clinical professor here at the College of Veterinary Medicine at Iowa State University. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing the information. So Talk to me about swine fever, because the one thing that someone that owns a show pig or owns they may not have a lot of pigs, but if they see some clinical signs, I guess one that's dead.
Yeah, that's a problem.
That's a problem. But what are some of the things that pigs go through when they get this disease?
Yeah, so that's one of the things that's a little bit unnerving for people, right? When we had PED, when that came in, it was pretty easy, right? Like pigs look fine today, tomorrow they've all got perfusive diarrhea. So that's a clear and obvious change. With African swine fever, the issue is it really looks like a lot of other diseases that we see with PRRS and circovirus and salmonella and things like that. So first thing you're probably going to notice is a pig that's not eating, not drinking, laying around a lot more than normal. One of the things though where it is different, that's termed African swine fever, for a reason, right? Mm-hmm. They do have a fever, and they really have an unusually high fever. Like it's very common for those pigs to run in 105 to 108 degrees. My. And we have a couple other things that sporadically you may have those type of high temperatures, whether Streptococcus suis or an influenza. But if you're looking at 106 to 108 degrees Fahrenheit, there really aren't many things. So one of the things that we're trying to educate people on is we've probably gotten away from using thermometers again, right? So that is certainly one tool that you could use. Like, boy, I got this pig, it's not feeling well, not eating, not drinking. Pull that thermometer out, take a rectal temperature. If you're getting anything over 105 degrees, that's probably a cause for an alarm. Or you need to seek some professional advice, you bet.
Yeah, don't just pick up the phone and call the CDC or the
right.
or Plum Island. Yeah, let's get a veterinarian out there.
You bet.
And so then, how long do they have this before they die?
With the strains that are circulating today, it really varies. And that's one of the things, too, if you're looking at it from a herd level, if you've got a large number of groups, is it starts with just a pig or two, right? And it kind of slowly moves. So it can take up to 2 weeks before we've got lots of sick pigs everywhere. Now, the thing it will do is it'll kill them fairly rapidly, usually within a matter of, 1 to 4 days. On an individual pig basis where it could, you're going to see them get sick. And some of the things you might see, it's a little bit different. They may get blotchy ears, red, purple nose, red, purple ears. You may see bloody type diarrhea. Some of those sorts of things would be some signs, but it doesn't take very long. The issue is in a herd basis, it's going to look, may just get a couple, so it's probably within the normal baseline mortality until a couple weeks later where, well, now I've got hundreds of animals that aren't eating and laying around and things like that.
And then it's
yep.
The horse is out of the barn.
It's all gone by that time.
We're in trouble. We got about 30 seconds before break. If someone thinks that this is something that's going on, obviously get a hold of your veterinarian.
Yep, that'd be the first thing, then come out and do the assessment, and then if they're nervous about it, then they need to contact the state and federal officials. They'll initiate a foreign animal disease investigation. All the local non-labs are all capable of running those type of samples, but they'll send somebody out to collect the samples, get it sent off, and confirm it or deny it, hopefully.
Perfect. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about swine fever, African swine fever, and how it impacts meat supply in the U.S. and beyond.
When it comes to stopping hornflies, cattlemen love their Vet Gun. Today they love it even more because Vet Gun now has a 1-2 punch with 2 VetCap insecticides. New AIM-A abamectin can be used in rotation with AIM-L for effective in-season control. Each delivers a unique mode of action to manage hornfly resistance. So start your in-season rotation program with AIM-L and new AIM-A abamectin vet caps from AgriLabs.
When you're in the cattle business, no matter how much it's a business, it still starts with cattle. It's this basic notion that sits at the core of how we approach things at Boehringer Ingelheim. We understand when you put the cattle first, it just naturally leads to doing the right things. If you want to do well in this business, you start by doing right. Take care of the cattle, and they'll take care of you.
You spent countless hours building a strong operation. But when it comes to trichomoniasis, the odds are stacked against you. It takes just one infected bull to take down the whole herd. Damage could include open cows, lost pregnancies, and lost profits. The good news is with TrichGuard, A herd doesn't have to feel like a house of cards.
This segment is brought to you by the Beef Quality Assurance Program and the Kansas Beef Council, improving animal care and beef safety for more than 20 years.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thomson here with Dr. Chris Rademacher. We're at Iowa State University in the College of Veterinary Medicine, where Dr. Rademacher serves as a clinical professor and also as the state swine veterinarian and extension specialist. Years of experience, and you've been on the global scene with pork production, and so and you know, obviously when you start to hear these numbers that are coming in on how the Chinese pig population was decimated.
Absolutely.
We can't produce enough meat
no,
to
that's
make
right.
up for that. Even if we put all the beef and all the pigs on the globe together, we're not able to get there. And so what do you see as far as the impact?
Yeah, it's real, right? I mean, I think initially, and it gets tough, right? Because the Chinese government say they've had 145 cases. Well, you probably need to add a couple of zeros onto that. We're talking about thousands of cases, right? And initially they're talking about 10% of the herds, and I've heard 30. More recently, I'm hearing up to 50%, right? So China produces about 600 to 700 million market pigs a year. So in the U.S. here, we produce about 110, right? So think about a sixth of that. If they're missing, if they're up to 50% of their production has been put out of the loop because of this virus, that's going to be a huge hole. Provides a huge opportunity potentially for any country that can send a non-infected product into that. The U.S. being a primary one, to be able to hopefully backfill some of that. Now, obviously, the trade negotiation and the tariffs and things like that will have some impact on that. But the Chinese, they eat a lot of pork. They eat about twice the per capita consumption of pork than what we do here in the U.S. And there's a huge hole there that somebody's going to have to fill. And this is a disease because there really aren't any vaccines out there today, not even really super promising candidates on the horizon. There's going to be a tremendous opportunity to backfill that, because the problem they're seeing, even on some of the farms that they depopulated, so that's kind of what they do, right? They find it on a premises, they get rid of all the pigs, they let it sit for 40 to 50 days, and then they try to repopulate it. Well, the problem is the reports from people that I talk to go over there, 50 to 90% of those sites, when they repopulate it, within the first 30 days, those animals are positive again already, right? Yeah. So it's gonna that hole, that 50% hole, doesn't feel like a one-time thing, and in a year they're going to be back up to production. This could be a 5 to 10 to 20 year hole for protein that somebody's going to have to fill.
Yeah, and when we start to think about the opportunity for our farmers and ranchers, because of our veterinarians, because of our biosecurity and the systems we set up, figuring out a way to get our pork into that country is important. And if we can't, when you're talking that much pork needed, it would also behoove us to get some beef rolling that direction as well.
Absolutely.
Because it's meat is meat.
Meat's meat. That's right. Absolutely.
Well, I'll probably get in trouble, and you'll probably get in trouble for both of us saying that, but that's okay.
Yeah, that's right.
We both.
It's protein, right?
That's right. That's right. That's right. But any final thoughts on the trade or implications, or where you see us going?
It's a global market, right? So even if they don't purchase it from the U.S. will probably provide an opportunity to backfill whatever places that they are taking it from, right? And so it's good. For pork, it's a big deal because 25% of the product that we produce gets exported, right? So and we're it's not like pork producers are making tons of money today, but if we could open that up and fill that void, it would be tremendously opportune and profitable times for anybody in the American meat protein sector, really.
It's go time.
That's right.
All right, folks, we're going to take a break. We'll come back and wrap up with Dr. Rademacher here on DocTalk. Thanks for joining us.
It must be an inherited trait, because I have never wanted to do anything other than be in the cattle business. And it's interesting, as I have grandchildren now, little bitty ones. All they want to do is go to the barn, swing a rope, and be a cowboy. It's something. It's a lifestyle that we have, the way we make a living, obviously. But it's really more than that. It gives us the opportunity as a family to be able to work together and enjoy each other's company and make a living at the same time. We've been using Triangle for years, and the reason we do it's been safe and effective, and we're going to continue to do that. We'll put the cows in the chute twice a year, spring and fall. 100% of our cattle get vaccinated with Triangle.
When it comes to stopping hornflies, cattlemen love their Vet Gun. Today they love it even more because Vet Gun now has a 1-2 punch with 2 VetCap insecticides. New AIM-A abamectin can be used in rotation with AIM-L for effective in-season control. Each delivers a unique mode of action to manage hornfly resistance. So start your in-season rotation program with AIM-L and new AIM-A abamectin VetCaps from AgriLabs.
No matter where, no matter why, the Veterinary Health Center at Kansas State University is committed to providing quality patient care to animals and exceptional customer service to their owners. From routine checkups to emergency and specialty care, our world-renowned specialists and experienced professionals are here to discover, to teach, and to heal.
Let us know.
How can I help?
How can we help?
Some call it a come-from-behind victory, an unlikely win, a reversal of fortune, snatching victory from the jaws of defeat. This is our moment, our victory dance, because we choose confidence. We choose Zuprevo for BRD treatment. Ask your veterinarian to prescribe Zuprevo. Zuprevo is a fast-acting, long-lasting BRD treatment that you can count on to get the job done. Choose confidence. Choose Zuprevo from Merck Animal Health.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
This segment is brought to you by the Beef Quality Assurance Program and the Kansas Beef Council, improving animal care and beef safety for more than 20 years.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thomson here with Dr. Chris Rademacher, and we're talking about African swine fever here at Iowa State University's College of Veterinary Medicine. And you know, when we think about how are we going to prevent it? We talked about security and making sure the food products and people's boots are clean coming in, and USDA and different things like that. But what do farmers and veterinarians need to be thinking about?
Yeah, so certainly we got Customs and Border Patrol working on that. So a lot of questions that we get is what can we do from a individual farmer, producer, caretaker standpoint? And there's probably a couple of things. Number one is, if you are having visitors or if you have employees that are potentially traveling abroad, you want to make sure you talk to them about some standard things that people do is, 5 days downtime after they come back. I tell people if they're going to visit, particularly if they're going to go to Asia now, buy a pair of shoes, wear them over there, and when you get back to the airport, throw them, get to the airport in the U.S., throw those shoes away and, put on a different pair. But, and then if you're having visitors, make sure, hey, no meat, nothing in the farm, nothing that comes from abroad. That's the simple stuff that they can do. The feed ingredient one, that's the one that has probably got multiple industries really concerned, right? So the pork swine industry professionals have been working with the American Feed Institute of America to talk about what sort of things can we put into place for ingredients, right? So there's been a lot of discussions about, pushing back to their feed people to say, hey, you got to push back to your suppliers. Can we source that from a non-ASF infected country? Or if we are, what sort of biosecurity steps are they taking in place to prevent, any sort of accidental transmission? And it can happen, right? You have lots of African swine fever going on. It's not uncommon at all for the Chinese people, when they dry their grain, they put it out on the open road to dry it, right? While you got trucks that are going right over top of it, most likely with infected animals, right? Yeah. So, the feed thing can certainly be a concern. Now, there's been some good work done by your colleagues at K-State University looking at potentially putting mitigants into the feed. So there's been some promising results there. They continue to be able to work on that in terms of African swine fever. So that's stuff that can be done from that standpoint. As far as the individual caretaker, I think what we're really going to see is becoming familiar with programs like Secure Pork Supply, how to get ready for foreign animal disease. And really most of that stuff is around improved, enhanced biosecurity, especially on some of these grow-out sites. They're not always this. The breeding herds, they're a little more tightly controlled, but the grow-out sites, small producers, small farmers don't always tend to have the best biosecurity. And, we have risky things that if the virus was in the chain, we have rendering, so a lot of education about things that they can do, hey, we need to think about boot changes, we need to think about restricting visitors, things like that. So I think just becoming educated, have those talks with your veterinarians about that. But whatever they do from a biosecurity standpoint, even if we don't ever get African swine fever, will help with PRRS and influenza and any of the other stuff, right? All those diseases are the same. So,
yeah. Well, I just appreciate the depth of knowledge and taking the time out of your schedule. This is a busy guy, and have you come and spend some time with us. And all that you're doing for pork producers internationally. Thanks so much.
You bet. I appreciate it. Thank you.
We appreciate y'all watching DocTalk too. Thanks for joining us. Remember, always work with your local veterinarian. And if you want to know more about what we do here on DocTalk, you can find us on the web at www.doctalktv.com. I'm Dr. Dan Thomson with Dr. Chris Rademacher. We're here at Iowa State University, and we'll see you down the road.
Closed captioning brought to you by VetGun with Amel and new AMA Abamectin Vet Caps, the 1-2 punch against hornfly resistance, from AgriLabs.
For more information about this program or previous programs, go to DocTalkTV.com.
DocTalk was brought to you by Merck Animal Health, the science of healthier animals.
Welcome to the Western Kansas Wildlife Travel Center, right here in my hometown of Oakley, Kansas. We're the front door of Western Kansas, located on 3 main highways, I-70, US 83, and US 40. And all those roads lead to history, beautiful scenery, and adventure, no matter which direction you go. We now have an IHOP. That brand that you've trusted up and down the road in all your travels is staffed with local folks, real people, just like you and me, and we're waiting on you to join us. So for fun, adventure, fuel up, fuel your body, and let's have some fun.
I had this horse. It was a good horse, except when the wind was blowing above 30 miles an hour. Wind was blowing about 35, 40, and I saddled him up, rode him out to the end of the lane, and I thought, well, he's doing pretty good. And about 6 jumps later, I was laying on the ground and thinking, boy, my shoulders sure hurt. I kept waiting, and it didn't get better, and so I went to an orthopedic surgeon, and that showed that I had torn rotator cuff. And said, well, I have to do surgery. I thought, I farm and ranch by myself. This is not going to work out very well. I'd been sleeping in my recliner for about 2.5 years because it hurt too much to sleep in bed on my side. I'd heard about Kansas Regenerative Medicine Center on the radio. Gotten down there at 8 o'clock in the morning, and by 11:30 the procedure was all over. They just took some fat out of my side here and spun that down for about 45 minutes and then injected it in my shoulders, and I was on my way. It's something you don't hear about, but I thought it was worth a try, and I'm really pleased. It's really worked out well for me.
You don't have to be a farmer or rancher to become a Kansas Farm Bureau member. Anyone can join. As a member, you'll get discounts on things like hotels and entertainment, health and wellness services, cell phone plans, and more. You'll also strengthen the lives of your fellow Kansans and help build strong, prosperous communities through agriculture advocacy and education. Join us today. Visit kfb.org/join to learn more.